All right, it's time now for our weekly Standing Together segment where we highlight organizations that share our commitment to advance the kingdom of God by championing faith, family, and freedom. And this week, we want to give attention to First Liberty Institute, the largest legal organization in the nation dedicated exclusively to defending religious liberty for all Americans. And joining me now to share more about this great organization is Jeremy Dice, Senior Counsel for First Liberty Institute. Jeremy, welcome back to Washington Watch.
It's good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Well, listen, first of all, let me just say a heartfelt thank you for joining us last month at our Pray Vote Stand Summit in Southern California. We truly, sincerely appreciate your partnership in kingdom work, both at that event, but far, far beyond. So thank you for being a part of that. Let's begin by share with our audience more about First Liberty. What are the type of cases that you all take up on a regular basis?
Yeah, as you said, First Liberty Institute is a nationwide religious liberty law firm. All we do is defend religious liberty for all Americans. The case you're probably the most familiar with First Liberty Institute involves a football coach, Coach Joe Kennedy, the coach of Bremerton, Washington, who wanted to take a knee in private prayer after the football game and was fired for it. And by taking a knee, he stood up for religious liberty for all Americans. But that's not the only case we've taken to the Supreme Court and won. In fact, I think in the last 6 or 7 years, we've had something like 9 wins at the Supreme Court of the United States, including Coach Kennedy's case, but also on behalf of Gerald Groff, the postal worker who wanted an accommodation so he didn't have to work on the Sabbath. We also represented the Bladensburg Memorial in Bladensburg, Washington. That memorial that had stood there for almost 100 years, memorializing the men who fought and died in World War I in the shape of a cross, this memorial was. And it still is. It's still standing there outside of Washington, D.C. because of the case we're able to bring and have a really positive impact for religious liberty at the Supreme Court of the United States. And I could go on and on about houses of worship, our synagogues and Jewish clients, our students, our men and women of the armed forces that we represent and defend their religious liberty, and so on and so forth, that we're working day in and day out. But the easiest thing that folks could do is just go to firstliberty.org and read up about all the great clients that we get to work with every single day.
Well, again, you guys do such a spectacular job, and it's great to be shoulder to shoulder with you in the trenches. While I have you, I know you've got a big case taking place with an interfaith organization in San Diego. Real quickly, tell us about that one.
Yeah, you know, it's appropriate. This segment is called Standing Together because that's exactly what's going on in San Diego. Here you have Mission Church there in outside of San Diego that has hosted a group to talk about the importance of Israel and the Jewish people and the sufferings that they're going through right now, not only in Israel, but around the world. They had this event and a bunch of protesters, and I use the term really loosely. These were more like agitators, and intentionally so. They infiltrate the group. It's a ticketed event. They give false names to enter the church. And in the middle of the event, they start standing up and swearing and yelling and screaming. Some of them had to be literally carried out by 4 different security members at the same time, and only to go outside where, 2 steps outside the church is the public sidewalk, and there's a mob of everybody missing just the pitchforks and the torches, yelling and screaming so loudly they could hear word for word all the vile things that were being thrown around outside. They could hear it inside the church as well. People couldn't get to their cars. They were stopped from being able to get there. Well, later on, this church partners with a local group called the Christian and Jewish Alliance. And they have another event this past September. And on the way in there, our client, Ruth Mastrin, well, one of these agitators jumps on her car. Well, this is a 70-something-year-old grandma who is trying to just simply get to this religious event with several others in the San Diego area and have a night of worship and supporting Israel and the rest. So we filed a lawsuit against these vile agitators, trying to remind them that if you're going to be this way, while the First Amendment protects a lot of things, it doesn't let you bully and intimidate and interfere with access to houses of worship in this country. And so we're going to hold them accountable under the FACE Act.
Great job. Thank you. Listen, we've only got a couple of minutes left. Let me kind of ask you a big picture question. Looking at some of the cases that First Liberty has taken up over the years and wrapped up, how would you describe the trend that you're seeing for religious liberty in America today?
Well, look, I think we're in very high watermark years of religious liberty. We've gotten rid of a case called the Lemon Test, the Lemon versus Kurtzman case. That was really a loser for all times when religion walked into the public square. Religion seemed to lose every single time. That case is gone. We now have more freedom today than we've had in our lifetime. But here's the deal: we can win all these cases, and look, I love going to court, and I love winning these cases, and I'm going to keep on doing that along with the rest of my colleagues at First Liberty. But unless you and I take advantage of the freedoms that we have, then it's all going to be for naught. Look, there's a case going on right now, a couple of them, as a matter of fact, in Texas and Louisiana and in Arkansas, where people are trying to do the remarkable thing of hanging the 10 Commandments on the walls of our schools. Well, that's people saying, you know what, I know the law has changed and it's changed for the better. We'd like to see these go back up on our school walls because, we'd sort of like to see kids following a lot of those 10 Commandments inside the schools, or at least be familiar with them as they grow up. And so that to me is people saying, you know what, this is good. We have a free country again. We ought to take advantage of the freedom that we have. That's why we have a project at First Liberty called Restoring Faith in America, where we can put up these monuments that have been taken down in the past that reference religion in the public square and so on and so forth. So I'd encourage folks to go to firstliberty.org to learn more about that project and others. But the answer to your question is we're at a great time.
We got to go. We got to leave it right there, Jeremy. Firstliberty.org. Thank you so much, Jeremy Dye, Senior Counsel for First Liberty Institute. An honor to be standing together with First Liberty.